was late one gloomy Friday afternoon in March. No, I can't keep that up. It was late one gloomy Friday afternoon in March. Now, I hadn't slept in over 72 hours. I've been investigating the case of a missing dog the last several days. My own dog, Muffy. Now, after being a pet detective for 18 years, I can't begin to describe the irony of losing your own dog. I was completely obsessed with finding her. That's when the chief walked in with a hot new case. The case was about a new virus that had been spreading across the globe, COVID-19. Now, as much as I loved Muffy, I knew this issue was more pressing, so I started researching immediately. Well, I mean, that's not exactly true. I had to go downstairs and get some coffee first. You see, I can't do anything without coffee. It might as well be the air I breathe. If only air tasted so delicious, am I right? Coffee rules. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, right, COVID-19. I knew I needed accurate and up-to-date information, and I needed it fast. That's why I went straight to the Center for Disease Control online at cdc.gov/COVID-19. I found out the name was short for something called coronavirus disease 19. It was a respiratory virus with symptoms of fever, cough, and shortness of breath. I read that if I was showing these symptoms, I needed to call my healthcare provider immediately and avoid contact with other people. And while I knew what I was reading was incredibly important, I couldn't help but pause dramatically to think about Muffy. Where on earth could she have gone? My calls for her seemed to echo across eternity. Muffy! Across the street for sure. I knew I had to focus on the task at hand, so I slid the picture of Muffy on my desk a little further away and went back to work. That's when I learned ways to help prevent the spread of COVID-19. I started by washing my hands, often with soap and water, for 20 seconds, just as the CDC recommended. They also recommended covering coughs and sneezes with tissues and not sharing personal items like dishware and towels with others. Then, I cleaned and disinfected all commonly touched surfaces like, my cell phone, doorknobs, and computer keyboard. It was during that time I realized what a complete slob I actually was. Judging by the looks of it, I don't think I'd ever cleaned my keyboard before. It's quite possibly one of the most disgusting sights I'd ever seen in my life.
Is that Cheeto dust?
After several hours of disinfecting commonly touched surfaces, I was immediately back on the case. No, wait, I think that's when I took a break to read a bit more of the steamy romance novel I was into that week. What? It helps me take my mind off stressful things, okay? After a much-needed break, I meandered back to my important research on cdc.gov/COVID-19, where I learned that I should avoid touching my face. It was at that very moment I realized I was touching my face. Do I always do that? I whispered. So I washed my hands again for 20 seconds with soap and water and went straight back to work on the case, or disputed a credit card charge. I can't remember. Anyway, I had a feeling that not touching my face was going to be an issue, especially for a pet detective that always rubs his chin while deep in thought. I just did it again. I can't believe I just did it again. Seriously, how do I not touch my face? Wow, that is incredibly hard not to do. After washing my hands for 20 seconds with soap and water for the third time in 4 minutes, I immediately rushed back to the case. I learned that it's important to stay home as much as possible if the disease is spreading in your community, something called social distancing. I was delighted to practice this technique at work. That's because, well, let's just say I'm more of a dog person. And that's when I realized Muffy wasn't missing. She must have been there somehow the whole time, and I missed it. It's almost completely unbelievable, but we'll have to do for this story. It was a crazy day, but I learned a lot about COVID-19 thanks to cdc.gov/COVID-19. And best of all, I found Muffy, even though she wasn't missing, actually. I'm excited for all this stuff to pass. Until then, I'm going to stay positive, keep my hands and surfaces clean, and keep my distance from others. I'm a dog person after all.